So you've got a rough draft sitting in front of you and you're ready to check it for development. In this video, we're going to talk about exactly what that means and how to decide what steps to take next in order to make sure you've let your ideas grow. What is development? Development is one of the making stage elements of drafting your paper, which means it's one of the most important parts of making sure that you have a full, solid paper. One of the major things you'll want to check when looking at your rough draft is whether you have developed your paper enough and appropriately. We'll talk about some tips for how to do that in a minute, but first, let's make sure we're on the same page when we talk about development itself. What does that mean? To put it simply, development is the stuff of your paper. Depending on what you're writing, it might be details and descriptions from your own experiences. It might mean examples from things you've read or watched. It might be quotes from articles and books you've researched. It's the content that actually makes your paper interesting, informative, and convincing for your readers. You could think about it this way. Your thesis statement or main idea is the seed of your paper. Development is the work you do to make sure that seed sprouts and grows into its full potential. Let's take a quick look at an example. Let's say that I've been assigned a reflective personal essay. The prompt was, write about a time you learned a hard lesson. I decided to write about the time I was accused of stealing money when I worked at a fast food restaurant as a teen, and how it taught me that I couldn't control how other people saw me even when I was being honest. This is a paragraph that comes in the middle of my paper and describes the moment that I was accused. It was the end of my shift, and the manager said that the count was off. I was short $40, and they would be opening an investigation. She didn't care when I said I hadn't taken it. There's nothing wrong with this paragraph. It's not poorly written, and it does say what happened. But since this is a personal essay where my emotional response is important to the main idea, I should probably develop this with some more details and descriptions. Let's take a look at my revised version after I went through my rough draft for development. I was so tired from standing in one place for 5 hours, and I still had to wipe all the tables and mop the floors before I could go home. While I wrangled a mop taller than me across the floors, slick with spilled ketchup and fry grease, the manager called me to the office. You're short $40. We'll be opening an investigation for theft, she said. Her voice was flat and matter-of-fact. She didn't ask if I had taken it, and she didn't care when I said I hadn't. This is my revised version. It adds specific types of details to help the reader imagine the scene more fully. It provides more sympathy for my position, which is important to my point. Development doesn't always look the same. In my example, I was writing a personal reflection essay, so the development was mostly from my own memories and experiences. I might have looked at old pictures or read old journal entries or simply spent some time sitting and thinking about the past to help me develop this paper. But if I had been writing an informative report on the population of wolves in Wyoming, I wouldn't be relying on my own memories or experiences. Instead, development for that paper would look like statistics, quotes from experts, and facts gathered from research. Development is about making sure your paper has enough stuff. What kind of stuff depends on the kind of paper you're writing. Now that you know what development is, let's talk about how to check your rough draft to make sure you've done it well. Some writers are underwriters. That means that their rough drafts tend to be very simple and straightforward without a lot of development. They start with the skeleton of their main idea and they build it out over time, usually after multiple drafts. So for them, the work between rough draft and the revision to turn it into a final draft will probably include adding more details, adding more explanations, and if it's a research paper, adding more quotes. Other people are overwriters. They tend to pour out every detail they can think of into their rough draft because they don't want to forget or miss anything. For them, going through the rough draft will usually mean chipping away to pick the details and description that really matter and getting rid of the extra that doesn't need to be there. Think of it like being a sculptor whose development work between the rough and final draft is chipping away at the parts that don't fit until they have only what they need left. Whether you are an underwriter or an overwriter or somewhere in between, part of your rough draft review should be checking for development. You want to make sure that you have plenty of relevant details and eliminate the irrelevant ones.